Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy, my channel is Finding Value. What I've got behind me are uranium companies and their price performance. We're looking at two different time frames. We're looking at a 5-year time frame and a 6-month time frame. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if the outperformers on the 5-year are still being outperformers on the near term. Because I've heard in the comment section, read some comments, and they said, why is Encore Energy underperforming? And I can't tell you the exact reason, but what we can do is analyze the data. I like looking at the data. I like looking at the price performance, looking at trends. And maybe we can project forward what could be best investments. Doesn't mean it will be. Something that's performed good on a 5-year doesn't necessarily mean it's going to perform well in the near term or the next 5 years. And what we kind of need to understand or kind of wrap our heads around is people are going to be flowing money into these things and they're not going to go equally. And depending on the market conditions, depending on the uranium price, it can determine where money is flowing into these companies. And usually what happens is that your high cost producers that were unloved at the bottom are kind of the laggards. Because people are like, well, they're a high-cost producer, or they have a project that costs a lot of money to get going, and people kind of forget about them. But they forget about them because they're not the go-to pick for the majority of people. And what we are trying to look for is if price goes vastly higher, and that's the conditions that we're heading towards, is a vastly higher physical uranium price, what could change the psychological viewpoints on some of these companies, and where would I be putting my money, and where have I put my money? And what I'm doing is I'm looking for the laggards, not necessarily the leaders. I hit my leaders up early, and then I started moving more towards what I consider to be the laggards, which I think will outperform going forward because they haven't had that value sucked out of the company yet. Doesn't mean that the top performers have either. I'm just looking at what changes are we seeing from a 5-year to a 6-month. And these trends, they may not continue. So don't hold it to me. We're just looking at data, trying to dissect it. And some of this stuff will be true. Some of it may not pan out the way that we think it's going to pan out. So what I do is I take a diversified approach. I buy a basket of it. I want to capture those gains. And diversify out a little bit. Could you go with a URNM? I like to build my own ETF, but I put URNM in here as one of the options, and we can see what the performance is in relationship to the other companies. So let's dive in. We've got a 6-month and a 5-year chart, and I'm going to start at the top here. And again, this is just my opinion, and we're just having some fun here. So we've got the 6-month here, and I'm going to zoom in. And looking at the 6-month, Uranium Royalty Corporation has done incredibly well. Notice that if you were looking at a different time frame, it was the underperformer here. And it looks like the UR Energy, this guy here, at least on this 6-month time frame, has been a top performer. It was performing very well. It stayed on top, and it's been on top. You know, it's second best on this chart at least. And has done very well. So URG has done very well. A laggard would be Uranium Energy Corp. That's the yellow here. It's been lagging behind. And in the middle, Energy Fuels and Encore Energy's in the middle as well. That's number 3. You can see the little dip here in Encore Energy. And I think Encore Energy, if you look at this, it was second here, second, and it ended up third here. And I think this is probably going to catch up and move to the upside. That's my guess. The chart looks pretty good on the short term. Now, going over to the 5-year, Encore Energy has done some absolute killing here. 5,155% in a 5-year. And this is the blue line that's just taken off. And it's in a league of its own almost. We've got Uranium Energy Corporation, Energy Fuels, UR Energy, and Uranium Royalty Corp. One thing I wanted to point out here is The 6 month, UR Energy was a top performer in the 6 month, but it's the most lagging company in the 5 year. It's in 5th place. So one thing to keep in mind is that when looking at this data, sometimes it's good to buy the laggard because the laggard's outperforming on the short term here. It's number 2. It's at 86% up in only 6 months. Uranium Royalty Corp has done pretty well throughout, and same with Encore Energy. So Encore Energy's done very well. UROI's done well, and UR Energy has started to kick itself up. Pick itself up here. Here's some other ones. These are the African companies. Some of the African companies. We've got Bannerman, Deep Yellow, Fortis, Goviax, and Global Atomic. And Bannerman has been on fire lately. 167% up. It's even smoking UROI. That's a very big gainer there. We've got Deep Yellow, which is in 3rd. We've got Goviax, which is in 2nd. Global Atomic is in 4th, and Fortis Metals is last for the 6 month. Looking at the 5 year, Fortis Metals has been an incredible force at 2,000%, Global Atomic at 2,800%, Deep Yellow at 1,300%, Bannerman at 880, and Goviax at 500. Now, of these companies that I talked about, and we're going to go over more, just to let you know, on this pullback here, I bought UROI. Uranium Royalty Corporation is the one that I personally purchased. Over a year ago, when it was down here, I purchased a lot of Encore Energy in 2020. That's the one that I loaded into. That was my overweight. Looking at these, I overweighted Bannerman in late 2020. I'm overweight in Deep Yellow recently. I've been buying even up here and down here, and in 2020. Fortis Metals is one that I did purchase on this pullback because it had a very large pullback on the 6 month. I thought it was of good value. I still think it's of good value, and I think it's kind of stuck at a resistance point. And I bought more Goviax because it's a laggard, and it's just breaking out of its resistance line right here. If you were to draw it all the way across, it's breaking out. So I do think that Goviax could be a good buy going forward. And this isn't recommendations. What I'm trying to tell you is what I am doing, what my financial opinion is, and you guys are going to have to do your own research. This is not recommendations. So for me, lately, I purchased Goviax, Fortis, Deep Yellow. And Bannerman, I purchased a lot in 2020. So I'm kind of happy with that. Looking at, and that most of my money's in the African, and some in the American, not a whole lot. Mostly in UROI is where I'm at. Now, this is the 6 month. This is a mixture mainly in Canada. I threw Laramide in there as well. And recently, I purchased a lot of Laramide some months back. So think of it like in here, and even before that. Laramide was a laggard, and it's now a leader. It's one of the leaders. I did purchase some UEX Corporation when it was down here. I thought it was of good purchase. Fission Uranium Corp, I bought a while back, but this one is now up with the leaders. 115% is incredible performance. Next Gen, I bought a while back. I have not added anything to it, and I own very little in Denison Mines that I bought a while back. For no reason, guys. I'm just giving you guys my opinion. Now, looking at the 5 year, Next Gen has done very well on this chart. No absolute blowout performers yet in terms of the 2000s or 1,000+%. Denison Mines up 345. That is another leader. And another leader is Laramide now. But notice Laramide was lagging back here in 2020. That's where I was buying it, right in here. And I think it did a moonshot down here with a big wick. I bought it 20 cents. And then we've got Fission's been a laggard, but now it's been just smoking it on the near term. It's the leader on the near term, but notice how it's been lagging on the 5 year. Same with UEX Corporation. what I did is I purchased UEX down here because it was lagging behind the others. So I thought, well, why not? And it's changing its position a little bit. It's strengthening up, I think. We've got the 6 month here. These are the uranium exploration companies. We've got Fission 3.0, Sky Harbor, Baseload, Canalaska, and ISO Energy. And I bought a lot of Baseload back when it was cheap in 2020 down here at the bottom. I got lucky. But looking at this, Fission 3.0 is a leader, Baseload's a leader, and ISO Energy. Those are the three. Sky Harbor is doing very well, and Canalaska is lagging behind. We also have a huge lagger is Fission 3.0 Corporation. So we're noticing that Fission 3.0 is kind of one of the leaders. It's the second best performer on the short term, but it's been a huge lagger in the long term. And that was a reason I bought it here recently. I was looking at this and I said, man, this thing's lagging. Let me get some money in just in case, Fission 3.0's luck changes. And that's where I put my money. I got some shares there. Baseload's too short of a time frame to really comment on here. But ISO Energy's been the clear winner of this group in the exploration companies, and Sky Harbor's been moving sideways, but it's been doing all right. So I'm kind of looking at this group because we've got some laggards here. Coming on down, this is another 6 month. Pierpoint Uranium's another exploration company in the Athabasca region. Peninsula Energy, Boss Energy, Consolidated International Uranium, and Lotus Resources is what I've got for this last, or second to last group. On the short term, these have done very, very well. Peninsula's done very well. Boss Energy's done incredibly well, and Lotus Resources have done very well. Pierpoint's been the laggard. Looking at the 5 year and some of these price performance, I wouldn't use Lotus or Boss Energy because they have such short-term movements, but Peninsula Energy is lagging behind. Maybe that's one to look into. It's doing very well in the short term, but kind of lagging on the long term. We've got Pierpoint that's been doing mainly sideways, and then we've got Consolidated Uranium coming all the way down, and it's starting to come all the way back. So I think these look pretty good for a consideration, especially Peninsula. It's kind of lagging behind if you want to take a contrarian approach. It's up to you guys. I'm not telling you guys to buy any of this. It's up to you on what you want to do. Here's the last group. I've got Centrus Energy, Blue Sky Uranium, Azincourt, North Shore Global Uranium ETF, and Valeura Metals. Azincourt's been a laggard by far. It's only up 3.7% from 6 months ago. Centrus has been absolutely on fire, moving on higher. North Shore Global Uranium is kind of the standard. Valeura Metals is a little bit behind, but it looks like it's making ground just recently. Looking at the 5 years, we've got some laggards. We've got Blue Sky Uranium as a laggard, Valeura Metals as a laggard, North Shore Global Uranium Mining Index is 282%, and Centrus, that thing's gone. It's in a league of its own, going on vertical. And then we've got Azincourt that's been cycling up and down. It is a laggard. So are the laggards going to outperform going forward? Maybe, maybe not. I don't have that answer for you guys. But what I've done is I've picked up some laggards. Some. Not all of them, but some of them. And the leaders, sometimes you have to buy the strongest ones too. So if you see some that's outperforming, like an Encore Energy, maybe that's one that you take a dual approach. You buy the best of breed in the sector that's laying down the performance, and sometimes you buy some of the laggards as a contrarian play. The laggards may not play. These plays may not play out, or maybe you choose some of the ones in the middle that are performing well all throughout the time frames. Maybe something like a Uranium Royalty Corporation. That's what I did. I picked some of these middle ones. I picked some of the bottom. I picked some of the top. I picked some explorers. Literally, I'm just picking whatever I can up at the lowest price I can get it. If something pulls back or if something's lagging, maybe I'll buy that one on the short term. And maybe Encore Energy is a good one to buy. It's been lagging on the short term. It's performed incredibly well on any time frame. It's a leader. Why wouldn't you want to have a little bit in the leader? I think a next gen energy is a smart move. That seems like a lower risk, solid performing bet. So, I mean, that's how I look at it. Looking at it from a value perspective, like uraniums per pound, the African producers, they seem pretty good, like a Bannerman. They are a little bit higher cost producers. Bannerman, Forces Metals, Deep Yellow, Goviax, those seem to be where I migrate to. I don't know why. I just continue to watch those all the time and migrate towards them. But that's just me. I think their charts have a lot of pop in them. They seem to be performing well on any time frame, and the value's there. So if they're the high cost producers and the price goes rocketing higher, I would think that all of their projects and their viability goes way up. Now, I don't have all my money in those. I'm spread across all this stuff. Different jurisdictions, different companies. I spread it out. And I've got explorers and developers. I don't have any producers, really. So that's kind of my take. If I want something extremely safe, I go buy physical metals. So this is my home run money. So I'm playing this different than maybe what you guys should be playing it. I'm swinging for fences. I'm trying to really push the envelope in terms of the leverage, and I'm not pushing it in terms of borrowing money to buy it. Leverage, as in the companies that have the biggest gains, hopefully in front of it, where I'm leveraging where they are on the Lassonde curve. The Lassonde curve, you've got explorers on the bottom, and you've got developers, and they're going to develop and add value to shareholders as they develop their projects. So that's kind of where I'm playing it. I think that the deficits are going to be so large that they're going to have to produce during this cycle the majority of these companies. There's not that many companies out there, so it's kind of like cheating. And I don't. It's okay if I don't win on all of my companies. What I want is a few that absolutely blow it out of the water. That's what I'm hoping for. And hopefully it's the ones that I overweighted in the beginning. Fingers crossed. Maybe I can get lucky. And if they can absolutely destroy it on the returns, then there's luck involved here. Because I don't work for these companies. I don't have insider information. I don't have any of that stuff. But looking at the charts, looking at some of their, going to their presentations on their websites, looking at their management, looking at their insider ownership, looking at what they're spending on general administrative expenses and all that. Are they using their money okay? Do they have good projects? I took my bets. And hopefully they play out. So if you're interested in what my bets are, I overweighted in the beginning Encore Energy, Deep Yellow, Bannerman. I've overweighted Goviax, Global Atomic. I've been buying Forces Metals to get a little bit more in there. Then I went into Laramide, Fission, Next Gen Energy. I overweighted Baseload and some of these explorers. And I'm spread out trying to get all my money in a lot of these explorers because I think they're lagging and I think they'll eventually catch up more towards the middle to end of the uranium cycle. And I think we're getting there. So hopefully a couple of these companies find something big and they really take off on the exploration side up in that Athabasca region. Fingers crossed. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.